I still believe in God. After doing a lot of research, after looking into many of the texts, and after examining the Abrahamic faith and the religions that are under its umbrella, I've determined that they aren't necessarily fitting the scope of the God in which that they have derived their belief system from. Yahweh is not the monotheistic, omni-everything God that the Christians, Muslims, and Jews uh, masquerade him to be. You know, they they pretty much big up, or they conflate and elevate this deity, just as some of the later writings did in the biblical text. But the Bible, in the Old Testament, it was never trying to be a universalist book. It was never trying to encompass everyone. It was always about the Israelites. And anything in relation to it had everything to do with the Israelites and their relationship with Yahweh, because that was how things worked in Canaan. The other Canaanites, the other Canaanite groups, they all picked their own Elohim from the pantheon, and they all eventually practiced henotheism. They started off as polytheistic, they eventually turned to henotheism, and the Israelites took it a step further and turned into monotry and then into monotheism. But it wasn't even the Israelites themselves that turned into monotheism. It's more so the people that followed their sets of beliefs or followed their books and their stories. They eventually turned into monotheists. And that wasn't because the text was promoting monotheism. The text doesn't promote monotheism. The text promotes henotheism. But a lot of people don't understand what henotheism is. A lot of people don't understand Israelite theology. A lot of people don't understand that the Israelites are Canaanites. But when you understand that Israelite theology is Canaanite theology and you trace it back, you end up realizing this is encompassed in Mesopotamian or the ancient Near Eastern theology. And even the Arabian Peninsula is not exempt from this. Allah is El. It comes from the root Ilah, which is the same as Eloah in Hebrew, or Il in Ugarit. All of these things have origins. The Quran is based off the Syriac Bible. Syria is where ancient Ugarit was located. Everything has its origin. Adam, Eve, they have older tales. Eve is Asherah. Asherah is known as Lady Hawat. Hawat is another name for Eve, or that is Eve's name in the Hebrew. Adam is also a god. He's sometimes known later as Cadmon, but in earlier times, Adamu or Adapa. You know, we have all these strange coincidences that don't end up being coincidences once you look at them. Once you look at all of the information, is clearly not the case that we have a Christian God or a Muslim God or a Jewish God. We have a set of gods, if there are any gods, because most of the ancient people, over 90% of ancient people, had multiple gods. Most. And if a overwhelming majority of people had multiple gods, and none of the singular gods nor any of the gods within this multiplicity have any parameters or any scope of being omni anything, I don't think that we can conclude that there is a monotheistic God unless we go outside of what's already been established and use the dogma or the doctrines that we've already made up from the polytheistic gods and try to find a God that we haven't yet been tested to or heard of. And, you know, we can finally try to find that. But I find it simpler to just go backwards in terms of back in history, not backwards as in back to Christianity, back to Islam, back to Judaism when that has failed me. There's no reason to turn back to that. There's no reason to even dig deeper into that once you studied it. Once you studied it, you can let it go because you can go backwards into where it came from. And once you look back into where it came from, if you're satisfied with what you find, then you may can find faith in that. You may can take beliefs that are the origin of your beliefs. You can take the root of your beliefs and turn that into your new beliefs. It's not like you're abandoning Yahweh completely or abandoning Allah completely. You are literally just putting them back in the proper context. Yahweh as one of the Elohim, one of the Benet Elohim, one of the sons of God. Allah is Eloah, who is El, the Most High Father, El Elyon. Ashura is the Holy Spirit, or you can call it Atarat or Kodesh. Kodesh is another word for holy. We know these things, but we choose to believe things that aren't that true, that aren't that standardized in terms of that you can go out there and scrutinize it and it stand the test of time. It stand the test of scrutiny. Now, a lot of these things do not. Yeshua, unfortunately, failed a lot of the Messiah prophets, like a lot of the Messiah prophecies. And even if he is the Messiah, that doesn't mean that he is God. The anointed one was never said to be the God. It was never said to be a God. But even if the anointed one is a God, it's still not Yahweh. It's still not Yeshua. It's still not, that still wouldn't be the monotheistic God. That would just be you attestations, or you attesting to Yeshua, you attesting to Yahweh. If you want to attest to something, attest to the truth. And that's what I've decided to do. I don't necessarily follow anything but the truth. That's my religion. That's my spirituality. That's my way of life. That's my belief system. That's my faith. You want to know why? Because the truth has a foundation. The truth is fundamental, and the truth is functional. And that's what a God needs to be. A God needs to be foundational, functional, and fundamental. If a God can't be any of those things, then it's probably not real. Even when we look at monotheism or polytheism, if any one of these gods doesn't fit that criteria, why establish any type of cult or following? You need to follow the truth. And that's what I have decided to do. And that is how I'm able to keep believing in God while also realizing that when I say God, I mean gods. I believe in the gods. You can call me an animist. You can call me a theist, a deist. You can put whatever label you want to put onto it. But I believe that there is something out there, whether it's 1, 2, 3, 4, I don't put a number on it. However many there are, whichever set of gods it is. If it is only one God, if it's the truth, I'm after it. And so should you. So keep that in mind, and let's have an interesting discussion about this down below.